day, everybody. It is Calxiyn here, and if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe for more RWBY videos. Go ahead and check out my Patreon to get early access and support the channel, and follow me over on social media. So we are talking about this RWBY comic issue today. Okay, so last comic, I had a sort of I like the lessons, but this is weird as fuck. This one, I think, is sort of like that. Like, if I had to rate the last comic, if you guys saw my review, it would have probably been like a 6 out of 10. Like, good lessons, still fucking weird though. This one is like a 4, okay? And I'm gonna explain why. I just, some stuff in here just rubs me the wrong way. I like some of the lessons, but I look at some of this and I'm just like, what were they what kind of dialogue is that? Like, what were they thinking? I don't know. I do like this lady. I like her, you know, her imparting wisdom, if that makes sense. Like, you have a right to your anger and trauma, but not a right to surrender the battle against yourself. I really like that. I think that's nice. And so I think that what is interesting here is a couple things. Like, Yang, you know, has to sort of ignore things like getting a hamburger and, like, even helping other people because she's like, you know, even if it's a good deed, it's still a distraction because it's like procrastination, basically, to the hard work. You know, and I kind of like this, like, the waterfall and, like, the splitting of the panels and all that stuff, if that makes sense. But we also get my birth mom, Raven, who abandoned me and my dad before Summer Rose loved him, before RWBY was ever born. So, okay, there is I don't want to say a running joke because it is kind of serious, but there is a running joke in the fandom that Tai Yang is this womanizer because Yang, like, he had Yang with Raven, and then, like, a couple months later, he fucked Summer Rose. So, like, I don't know, like, Yang is basically saying, my birth mom, Raven, abandoned me and my dad before Summer Rose loved him, right? And so they didn't have a thing going on before, but that's still really fast, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of pretty fast to do all that, and, like, obviously, Raven left him before RWBY was born, because that wouldn't make sense, you know what I'm saying? But, like, I don't know, like, I think about Tai Yang a lot. It's just a really short time period between Yang's birth and RWBY's birth for him to fall in love if Summer Rose didn't love him before Raven abandoned him, and then start just fucking her and having RWBY. I don't know. That's interesting, like, tidbit that they're trying to give us some sort of timeline for events for, like, you know, Yang being born and Raven and Tai splitting up and all that stuff, but at the same time, I'm just like, maybe just leave it up to the imagination, because no matter what you say, you made the age difference between them pretty close that it's still a little weird. Still a little weird. Anyway, then pirates. So this is where stuff started to get, like, whack, and I was just like, what is going on in this comic? Because it just, I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but I'm just like, you know, we're having these deep sort of thoughts about you know, this adventure that we need to go on and, like, not, like, stopping for anything and going to find RWBY and all that stuff. Then, pirates! And so, this is very Breath of the Wild to me. Like, for some reason, like, just how this boat looks and all that stuff. So this is the captain of the pirates, I guess. And they fight a little bit. I just wanted to show you guys this panel so you guys can see the fight. But, yeah. So basically, the rest of them just run away, and he starts to make excuses like, I'm not with them, and all that stuff. And he, oh god. Okay, so he says, a Grimm attacked our town a few years ago. What's a craftsman supposed to do with a busted hand? No work, no dates. And so, this is, I know he's a bad guy, but this is just weird all around. So this guy, first of all, he says that he has a disability, right? Like, he says that he lost his hand in a Grimm attack, and then Yang says, you are not seriously giving me the why my disability is why I'm a big jerk speech right now. And so that, like, I don't know. That sort of rubs me the wrong way with how she said it, if that makes sense for some reason. But what's even worse is that he was lying about it anyway. And I know he's a bad guy, and I know that he did it to get to her and all that stuff, but it's weird because she says that, and then she has some other things, like, to say to him and impart some wisdom on him, but then he's like, ha, I tricked you, I'm not actually disabled, and I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, it's just a little uncomfortable to read, if that makes sense, because, like, I don't know, like, I feel like that, especially now with social media, we see a lot of people being accused of faking a disability when they're actually not faking. And then we talk, like, I feel like there's a lot of talk about, like, hey, like, just because you don't see that someone is outwardly disabled doesn't mean that they're not disabled. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to believe someone when they say that they are disabled. And I know that this guy is a bad guy, but he says that, and then later he's like, oh, JK, I just, like, tricked you to get you to trust me and I manipulated. I don't know. It's just weird. It's just a weird, like, thing. And I get that he's a bad guy and bad people do bad things, like lie, but it's just such a weird thing because I feel like I don't know, they're trying to do something for Yang here because Yang is now disabled, but I feel like that the dialogue that they're giving her, it's weird. I don't know. Like, I feel like that there's just something weird about all this, right? And so she says, okay, what happened to you sucks, that's awful and unfair, but you don't get to take away from someone else because the Grimm took something from you. I kind of like this line, but yeah, this is where I'm like, what is this dialogue? And you definitely don't get to make what happened to you into some kind of, I don't know, low-rent villain origin story, and I'm just like, why? I don't know, just something rubs me the wrong way about some of this dialogue, and I can't really explain it. I just don't like it. And so then you see that this guy actually does have both hands, and he is, you know, escaping and all that stuff. And so she tried to impart the wisdom that she got from the lady, like from the grandma back in the village, and she, you know, sort of repeats the same thing to him, and he was just lying. And here's, again, another dialogue thing where I'm like, what is the swearing in this DC comic? Like, I thought, oh, grapes was bad. Stinking, dead horseshoe crab that washed up at low tide. Okay, I'm just saying, yikes. Yeah, so this guy, his hair color just randomly changed for some reason. I think it was black in the other panel, now it's brown, but, you know, anyway. And so my hand sure got you talking. I knew it would. So, like, I don't know. Like, there's just something really weirdly assholey about, like, a guy that, you know, pretended to be disabled because this other character was disabled, then was just like, oh, well, I pretended because I knew that would get me sympathy points. Like, there is some fucked up stuff going on with that. But then, at the end of the comic, like, this is what sort of bothers me about this side character's, like, progression, if that makes sense, and I guess I'll get to that when we get to that. And yeah, so you guys can sort of see what he says to Yang, like, so much stronger because, you know, you're suffering with dignity and all that stuff. And he talks about, like, you know, piety in the face of poverty and all that sort of stuff, and then he gets hit with the bike, which is great because, you know, Yang's done that to Adam, and so obviously this was in the past. She got used to hitting people with her bike, you know what I mean? But yeah, I kind of like that I guess he zapped himself because of the rubber. Yeah. And so that was fun. And so anyway, he just runs away because she's just like, hey, caring about people isn't a weakness, so I'm gonna let you go and stuff. And I like that she says, I kind of like this, your weakness is that you lived on this planet for all these years, and this mean, nasty, selfish little life is all you have to show for it. I kind of do like that, but what I find weird is that this guy is, like, the captain, and then, you know, like, what are your orders, sir? Like, all that sort of stuff. Like, what did she do? And then this guy is just like, oh, don't give this girl any trouble, because, you know, she taught me a lesson, right? Like, no one's gonna accost Yang, because she's just that badass, and, like, she's hard medicine. She's a cure. Like, she changed my whole opinion on my life through monologuing at me, which is fine, but it's just, like, I don't know, it's just, like, this character has been a pirate all his life, and all Yang said was like, caring about people isn't a weakness, and I let you go, and I said some mean stuff to you, so I guess you'll change your ways. I don't know, it's just so weird. Like, everything about this comic is just weird. I don't know, this one just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I like the idea, right? Like, Yang teaches a pirate, like, how to not be a bad person, I guess, or Yang teaches someone how to be a bad person, but I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of weird things in here. I think it would be better if instead of pretending to be someone with a disability, he actually had a disability, and that made him change his ways. But instead, there's all these, like, little twists and turns, like, for his character, and he's just some random side character, and I'm just like, oh, well, now he's good, I guess. But I guess they're not gonna stop being pirates, they just said to leave Yang alone. Because, like, he has some sort of respect for her now, and so it's like, oh, well, you know, we're not gonna bother her anymore, she's a tough cookie, she's a cool lady, you know? But I don't know, I don't know. I don't like this one. I like parts of it. I think everything was, like, good and, like, good lessons until the pirate stuff happened. And the pirate stuff happening was where I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is even going on here? I don't know. I just think, again, I can't explain why it rubs me the wrong way. Maybe one of you guys can pinpoint it, and it's hard to make a criticism when you yourself can't put into words what is wrong with it all exactly. I think it's two things. I think it's the dialogue. Like, the dialogue seems very, like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, yeah, I don't know. It just, parts of the dialogue are just bad, like the horse crabs thing, right, and all that stuff, but then part of the dialogue is just, like, it feels very shoehorned, like, hey, just because you have a disability doesn't mean you get to be an asshole, and just how, like, Yang said that line, it seems like that sort of, like, pieces of the dialogue are just shoved in here, if that makes sense, and they're shoved in here to get points, I guess, because, you know, in the actual show, people don't think that they handled Yang's disability well. Like, there's a difference between the Yang PTSD argument, and I do agree that Yang's PTSD is fine, especially if people have said, you know, I have PTSD and I feel like Yang's, like, struggle with PTSD is fine, but when it comes to the actual disability thing, they really didn't address that at all, and even in Volume 7, like, Yang never thanks Ironwood for her arm or any of that, you know what I mean? And, like, Yang and Ironwood can relate on that level, because Ironwood lost half of his body, but there's never any conversation or discussion about that, which is weird, because, you know, in, I think, Volume 4, Tai Yang is like, oh, or Volume 5, I don't remember exactly, but like, oh, like, Ironwood, like, sent you this arm, like, special order just for you, and all that stuff, and, like, she never says anything to him, and, like, they never talk about it again. I mean, the only thing that comes close is, like, Blake thinking that she has to do everything for Yang now, like, put the bags up, like, just because Yang lost her arm and all that. Like, that's the only thing that sort of comes close there, so I feel like that this is sort of like, oh, well, we didn't talk about Yang being disabled enough or having a disability enough, so we're just gonna put something in the comic that seems a little weird. I don't know, it just seems weird to me. Maybe you guys don't feel that way. I just read this and I was just like, what? Like, what? You know, unlike, I guess, the last comic where I was like, this is weird, but it's weird in a different way. Like, this is weird bad. The other was weird, like just weird because it was like, ooh, a mystical maze and all this stuff. Summer Rose is talking to me as a bird, and, like, I don't know, but this is weird. Like, some of this dialogue is bad and feels very shoehorned and unnatural, and that this progression of this comic, like, the story progression here, makes, like, no sense, and I don't understand. Like, I guess, like, that's just how I feel about it. If you guys can better explain my thoughts than me, because again, I cannot really pinpoint down what exactly, you know, in a concise sentence bothers me, but I think that you guys can understand at least the vibe or the gist of what bothers me. I do not like the vibe of this comic, if that makes sense, but yeah, that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sure the next one will be better. I don't know, like, this one was just kind of not great. But yeah, I will talk to you guys in the next one. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Bye!